Welcome to the podcast. We talk about all the things that are hidden in the shadows. This is Isaac.
And this is Megan.
And on this long anticipated episode,
we are talking about the Cecil Hotel
that we're going to have to break up in two pieces.
Yeah, we're going to have to divide it into two separate parts. So this part will be obviously this week. And then next part two, will be next week. So part one is basically going to be about like the backstories, kind of like the theories of why it's haunted and like the creepiness about it, what makes it like stand apart from other haunted hotels, and a little bit on the paranormal activity and stuff that's going on. And then part two is actually going to be almost like encounters, psychic impressions of the building, like what people have gotten psychically from it and things like that. And even encounters of staff and guests that we were able to find. Because some people actually talk about it in the reviews, which I think is funny, of the hotel. So yeah, we'll get into that.
And in a game, I am challenging everyone who's listening to play. Find the EVPs.
Yeah, we've been having some things.
No, I'll say that, but every time, but every once in a while that we talk about something this intense, a lot of spirits want to come forward and make themselves known, whether good or bad. So yeah, I'm guaranteeing there's probably at least going to be one in this episode.
Yeah. Well, I had the hardest time. Like, I have got to figure out psychically like how to put a barrier up for me channeling, because I've said this before on previous episodes where I was looking at like these abandoned buildings and all of a sudden I started channeling something and it was just not good. And of course, the Cecil Hotel, with as much death and darkness and stuff like that it has, I started getting just weird things. Like there was when I was first researching, I had to stop because I kept hearing like a metal pole being hit, like a pipe, almost like this old-fashioned pipes. And so
all pipes are technically old-fashioned.
Well, you know what I mean.
It's made out of metal.
You know, like the ones that are in like the Victorian houses, not the Victorian houses, like just the old buildings.
Yeah.
And it was like and it keeps tunneling me down this hallway. Like visually, my third eye, I see the hallway, and then I keep seeing, because obviously, you know, the Elisa Lam story is tied to this hotel, and she was found in one of the water tanks up on the roof.
Nobody heard nothing. I don't know if anyone heard that burly man.
Yeah, let's just continue. Yeah, let's just continue. That was not an EVP, people. That was Isaac's butt screaming for help. Oh my gosh, only you in a serious conversation would.
And now the room was, well, more echoey.
Yeah.
Yeah, you might be able to hear it.
Oh my gosh. The chair was, no, please don't. Anyways, okay, so like when I was researching, it would channel me down a hallway, and then I would see this girl. It wasn't Elisa Lam. Like, it wasn't the girl in the story. I've seen what she looks like. But it was like this girl in a long white dress with like her feet wet. And I was like, okay, that needs to go. That needs to stop right there. And I had to stop actually researching for a little bit because of that. And so yeah. So Cecil Hotel is intense, needless to say.
Something I guess I don't even grasp this most of the time when I'm thinking about it, but something that I guess our average listeners, I don't know if they fully grasp the idea that we're not. Then again, I don't know if there's any other podcasters out there, but I guess we're not your average podcasters when it comes to experiences and stuff, because you are a very psychic, and then my ability on top of it, so that makes us an odd duo when it comes to our experiences and how we deal with stuff that we research.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I know you listen to us most of the time. You're like, oh, great personality and stuff like that. But I know it's like it's almost in the back of your mind that the things that we can actually do. Then again, it's hard for a lot of people to believe what we can do until you see it firsthand. But I mean, that's But I know just something that I had a random thought I had the other day was like, I don't know if anyone grasps that they're not listening to like average people when it comes to what stuff we experience.
Yeah.
Especially you when you do channeling and stuff like that.
Yeah. I wish like there was a way. I don't know. I've always been like this. Like I wish I could just put a block and just stop. But yeah, certain things we research and it's not a big deal. Like teach is whole. Like
Oh, the
That
pirate thing.
the
Yeah.
pirate thing,
Yeah.
I didn't get anything from there. Teach's Hole, I didn't get anything from. Even the hammock house, I didn't get anything from. What's another place that we even Pavalia Island, I didn't get anything from. But this, like this one, put it to you this way: there's not a lot of very many locations that you could tell me, hey, we're gonna go investigate here, and I'd be like a little bit weary about. But I feel like the Cecil Hotel is one of those for me. And it's funny because even when Ghost Adventures covered it, like they investigated, I wasn't even like, oh, let me watch this. Let me watch this. I was just like, man, they covered it okay. Which is crazy because now all of a sudden it's like I'm getting pulled, like I want to go there. I want to go investigate there. Then I'm scared at the same time. Not scared, it's just like I know as the mess that I would probably be feeling there.
I don't know if you're going to talk about this later
Mm-hmm.
in an episode or not, but I remember the one story of a psychic who remote view
Mm-hmm.
when she remote viewed in after watching the Ghost Adventures episode.
Mm.
She remote viewed into the Cecil Hotel, or remote viewed actually outside of it, and what she saw was like a swirling portal above the hotel
Yeah.
with these winged creatures flying around, and then she said her psychic guide or something, like, or a spirit guide told her, hey, get the hell out of here, this place is no good.
No, there was another video that even this is what sparked me to start looking into the Cecil Hotel. Because I saw this psychic, she was really good with remote viewing, and she was like, she had the idea, and I know you've mentioned it to me a couple times, like, what if you remote view to some of these most like haunted locations? And for me, I mean, I remote view better when I've been there at least once, but she remote viewed to the Cecil Hotel. You know, she got in her like kind of like trance state where she kind of was like meditating halfway in between, and she said that she got stopped, like, hey, what are you doing? She was in a hallway. She's like, this guide, I guess, is almost like astral guide, but she was on the astral plane, so it was kind of just like I don't know what it was, but it told her basically, hey, like, you don't need to be here.
You were talking about the same person.
No, it was a different one. She was on TikTok.
Yeah, that's the one I saw.
Oh, maybe so it is the same person.
Yeah, she said she saw a swirling portal thing above the...
Yeah. Okay, so then we saw the same video.
Yeah.
I forget, like, our For You page sometimes, like, links up.
Yeah, you send me a video, like, I've seen it.
Yeah. But yeah, so that's what kind of got me, like, into the hotel, into the, like, thing of the hotel. Another thing that I was, like, I guess you want to say channel is, I was talking to Isaac about some of these stories of the Cecil Hotel. I was like, you wouldn't believe, like, how many deaths and suicides, and it's so creepy, and these are my theories, and da-da-da, which I'll share in part 2, because they're kind of, I don't know, out there, but, actually not out there, it could be very plausible.
A lot of our theories are out there.
Yeah, it could be actually very plausible, because I don't think people understand just how much energies can do to people. Like, but yeah, so I was talking to him, and all of a sudden I started getting this image. You'll see image of like just a letter M, like a thick blocked M. And so later that night, I couldn't figure out why I was getting an M, like M Megan, like what's the M for? And there was no clarification to me what the M was. Anyways, funny enough, on my For You page stumbles the aerial view of the Cecil Hotel, which is
in the shape of an M.
In shape of an M. So yeah, and prior to that, I never saw. And I noticed, like, the first thing that I ever kind of like saw on the Cecil Hotel that like made me go, what, was the way it's built. You know, like the 3 sections.
Mm-hmm.
Freaks me out. Not freaks me out, but it's just an uneasy feeling. And I have never shown the picture of the Cecil Hotel to anybody and then say, oh, I get good vibes from this place. Like, it's just a bad place. Like, you say you always are like Bobby Mackey's, right? I think for me, it's the Cecil Hotel.
Well, I mean, I always say Bobby Mackey's because it's renownedly known for having demonic spirits and stuff like that. But after the few things we saw from the Cecil Hotel, whether interviews or in the Ghost Adventures episode, is that there is demonic activity there. It's just not as pronounced as it is at Bobby Mackey's.
Yeah. And the thing is, too, like, before I go into the actual stories behind the Cecil Hotel, the thing that, like, made me go, what the heck? Because I was trying to figure out, why was I seeing this girl in the tank? or not in the tank. Why was I seeing this girl with the wet feet? Like, what is she? Why? And I've in my past, I've seen a similar girl, but I started figuring, okay, so why do I see this girl? Like, when do I see her the most? And it's normally around dark or demonic activity. So I'm like, was that a signal saying, hey, there's dark stuff here. Don't try and channel too far. So I don't know.
But
into the episode, since that was a long introduction.
People, if you are into the paranormal whatsoever, and if you're not and listen to this podcast, why? I mean, granted, I enjoy your time, but we're going to talk about some spooky stuff.
Yeah.
So, but the Cecil Hotel is really known amongst anyone who's into the paranormal as being one of the most haunted places in the world.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And a quick disclaimer before we start getting into the actual episode. We are going to talk about some of the deaths that occurred there, which is a little bit gruesome. And if you honestly get kind of spooked kind of easily, this
Again,
probably the place.
Why are you letting me?
Well, no, some people like paranormal, but don't like going too far into the darker.
We're all weirdos here.
Oh yeah, okay.
To get it? Anyway.
Oh, all right. Okay, so I'm gonna go ahead and start. So, like we said, today's episode we are covering the infamous Cecil Hotel. For those of you that don't know, the Cecil Hotel is a very dark past and has been a significant place for paranormal investigators. On this episode, we will cover the backstory, the Elisa Lam story, and all the theories and backstories. And then next week, we will cover everything that people have encountered, paranormal activity over the years, what has happened to people on investigations, and what some psychics have experienced or seen while being around this hotel. Okay, so the backstory. So this hotel was built and opened in 1924 on Main Street in downtown Los Angeles. The original idea for the hotel was to be a place where successful businessmen and social elites can come and stay while visiting the town or the city. However, the Great Depression hit America and that clientele completely changed. With a flip in clientele, some of the guests who stayed here were considered violent. The hotel in the 1920s was built by William Banks Hanner, who back then spent over $1 million to build a hotel, which would be around $21.2 million today. So on this hotel, there is 14 floors and over 700 rooms. So a lot of places.
Trying to grasp that and
that's a lot.
In 1924, granted they've upgraded at least a lot of things. They have the elevator, and elevator didn't look like it was made in around the 1920s. But the Ghost Bridge episode looked like it last was, I guess, rebuilt probably in the early 90s.
Yeah.
The way it looked.
So, so right now it's operating as a low-income complex. It's open and operating as that.
Oh, yeah, done.
Yeah, they already did. So they started in 2017, and then obviously the pandemic caused some halts, and then I forgot the actual year, but it was within the last couple of years that they opened. And it's a low-income apartments, which it kind of already was beforehand. So basically when the Great Depression hit, they couldn't charge like they would because they're better hotels and stuff after the Depression kind of came. And so they were just kind of left. So they rented the bottom floors, so floors 1 through 7, out to long-term residents. And then anything over 7, the 7th floor was the short-term stays. But there was weird stuff about the hotel. I don't get why people were like, yeah, let's do this. Because some of the rooms you had to share. You actually had roommates with strangers. It was more like a dorm setting. Even the short stay apartments, the short stay rooms didn't have a bathroom. They had a communal bathroom on the floor, which I find that very odd. That's weird. I wouldn't stay there because that's weird. I don't know. To me, especially in a hotel, I don't know why the staff, because it stayed like that for a long time. I don't know why the staff was they single-handedly knew bad people kind of stayed there. Not even because there was like prostitutes that would stay there. There would be sex workers. There would be criminals. There would be, you know, like people with addictions. There would be people that just were going through a bad string of bad luck. So all those mixed in, and it's on Skid Row, and it's always been on near Skid Row. Which anybody that doesn't know what Skid Row is, it's basically an area in downtown Los Angeles where the homeless population is over 10,000. And so it's right by there. So obviously in low income stuff, sometimes addiction is a thing. And so, in the actual hotel, there was a lot of suicides, a lot of deaths and stuff like that. So that's kind of what we're going to cover now. So, the first death reported occurred on January 2nd, 1927, which this was the first couple years of it opening, which I don't know why. I guess it was the Great Depression, but like the 1920s to 1930s, you're going to see there's a lot, or 1940s, you're going to see a lot of freaking suicides. The first death was Percy Ormond Cook, who was 52 at the time and died of a suicide by gunshot to the head. According to the reports, he was a cook and in the evening shot himself in the head inside his hotel room when he couldn't reconcile with his wife and child. According to the Los Angeles Times, at the time he was rushed to the receiving hospital, but his chance of surviving was extremely minimal, and he ended up dying that same evening. So he was the first one. The cook. 4 years later, on November 19th, 1931, another suicide. This time was by ingesting poison, and this time it was 46-year-old W.K. Norton. He was a Manhattan Beach resident and had been found in his hotel room after ingesting poison capsules. An odd thing about him is that the week prior, he checked in under James Willies and claimed he was from Chicago. Another one. 3 years later. After that, in September of 1934, another suicide, gunshot to the head. This time it was Benjamin Dodich. Dodich? I don't know, I'm sorry. Age 25. A maid had discovered his body in his hotel room with a gunshot wound to the head, and he apparently did not leave a suicide note.
No one's hearing his guns go off?
Exactly. That is my point. Why all of these years? And another thing, actually, I'm going to wait to talk about this because it's an important part. But a lot of the things don't add up. And it's almost like the staff is letting it happen. Like they're letting it be letting it like, and no like detectives or police departments or nobody knows like, hey, something's not right. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Not to investigate. Like, I don't understand. Okay, so another 3 years later, another suicide, but this one much more gruesome. This was 53-year-old Sergeant Louis D. Borden. He was a former Army Medical Corps. He was an Army Medical Corps. Corpsman. Yeah, sorry. I don't know why I had an issue with that. He was found dead in his room with a slashed throat from a razor. He left several notes, including one that poor health was one reason for his suicide. Again, moving on, no more than 8 months later, in March 1938, another death. Grace E. Margro, age 25, fell from the building. She apparently fell from a 9-story window. Her fall was broken by telephone wires that had wrapped around her entire body. The police were unable to determine whether she died from a suicide or if it was an accident.
It almost seems like the negativity of the building
consumes people.
Well, it consumes them, but granted, if you're in a suicidal state already to begin with, you already have that level of depression and thoughts, but when going there, it almost amplifies it to a point where it makes you do it.
Yeah. It's like something dark is there encouraging you and feeding off the suicides. January 1939, less than a year. Roy Thompson, age 35, suicide, fell from building. No backstory or information is available other than that. 4 months later, Irwin C. Neblett, age 39, death, ingested poison. He was a naval officer and was found in his room. January 1940, Dorothy Seger, 45, suicide, ingested poison. September 1944, Dorothy Jean Purcell killed her newborn baby. She threw her newborn baby out of the window and was acquitted to murder charges for insanity. She was 19.
Is there with all these deaths in the hotel earn a nickname?
Huh?
I said with all these deaths in the hotel earn a nickname?
Okay.
Hotel deaths.
Oh, yeah. November 1947, Robert Smith, 35, suicide, fell from building. October 22nd, 1954, Helen Gurney, suicide, fell from building. February 11th, 1962. I don't know. It didn't say the name, but suicide, fell from building. October 12th, 1962, Pauline Oten, 27, fell from the building onto George Giannani, who was down, walking, and killed him as well. So, yeah.
I think they would make the windows not available to open.
This isn't even June 4th. June 4th, oh, no, sorry, wrong one. December 20th, 1975, Allison Lowell, approximately 23, death, fell from building. September 1st, 1992, unknown name, approximately 20 to 30 years old, fell from building, never been identified. February 19th, 2013. So there was a gap. 1992 from 2013. Elisa Lam, 21, death, no cause. Or not no cause, they can't find the cause of her death. June 13th, 2015. Unknown name, 28, death, fell from building. So yeah. And it wasn't until, so I don't know, nobody thought to check out like what the hell is going on at this hotel that all these people are dying. Like no officials, no people. I guess they just thought Skid Row's right there. It's just druggies and.
Well, they blamed it on the kind of people that go to this hotel are all poor, depressed people. Hence, why they can afford such a hotel to stay at for a period of time that acted as a communal place.
Yeah.
So their excuse is that, well, shitty people come here anyway, so why do we care? I think with the amount of deaths that have been happening over the time, you think they would have like the gurney on call, like, oh, I know it's time, any time now, we're gonna have someone die.
Yeah.
Never thought, hey,
well, like,
stop.
Well, like, apparently, I guess I don't know how true this is, but apparently they installed bars on the windows. I think recently. There is I don't think that's true though, because, there is a guy, I forgot his name, but I'll probably talk about him in part 2. He lives across, he's a TikToker. He's like super famous. I forgot what his name is, but, he specifically tries to film the Cecil Hotel. Like he tried even getting in there when they first reopened it for the low-income apartments, but they like ushered him out. They said he couldn't film in there. But he tries to fly his drones in there sometimes in the open windows and stuff, like to get something. And he says there's constantly. He said he had footage where I think it wasn't even 2 weeks that the place was open low income, and there was an ambulance right there. So, yeah. It's such a dreary place, and like there's got to be something pushing these people to the edge, because you think even the people that like murdered that murdered in the hotel, they, with the newborn baby and everything, they were acquitted on their murder charges by insanity. So obviously there's something going on there. And I still say this is just my opinion. This is not like actual fact, but I still say there's a lot more deaths and a lot more murders that took place, but were kind of like swept under the rug, even though like, how can you sweep any more under the rug? Because you have serial killers, and 2 that we're going to talk about, that stayed at this hotel temporarily, but stayed in the long-term apartment things on the below levels. And there was tons of people that probably didn't have a lot of family, would have been prime victims in the upper levels. You're telling me that nothing in the communal bathrooms, nothing happened to them with the two serial killers. One specific one, well, I think the other one was brutal too. I don't know too much about the other one. But Richard Ramirez, the Night Stalker, he was so brutal with his murders.
And a renowned Satanist.
Yeah. So you're telling me he didn't do anything while he was there? Nothing. He didn't go after anybody while he was there.
Yeah.
It's hard to believe. And that's what blows my mind about the communal bathrooms. You're telling me that nothing happened in the communal bathrooms where you're almost at a vulnerable state because you're trying to take a shower, whatever, go into the bathroom, whatever. So you're in a vulnerable state where you're not expecting somebody to come after you. So, okay, so we're going to kind of move on to what kind of got the Cecil Hotel the attention, and that was the Elisa Lam case story, because
it was so bizarre.
It was so bizarre. Yeah. Yeah. Okay, we're gonna go. Anyways, okay. Okay, so Elisa Lam was a student at the University of British Columbia, except records state that she had not enrolled for the 2013 year, which is the year that she died. According to her blog, she had mentioned she felt a bit lost and she had a struggle with mental illness. She was diagnosed with bipolar disorder and depression, and she took several medications for her issues. And this is important because a lot of people want to blame that for a theory as to why she ended up how she ended up. Her family, who were immigrants from Hong Kong, had kept Elisa's mental illness private and stated that even though she had mental illness, she was never suicidal or even had any attempts. Apparently, according to articles and reports, Elisa had difficulty in taking the medications, and sometimes after not taking them would suffer from hallucinations. There was even a time where she hid under her bed for a period of time because she started hallucinating bad. It was at a point where Elisa decided to take a trip to California. This is where Elisa decided to check into the Cecil Hotel. 2 days prior, she was taking series of photos on social media, visiting places around the area. On January 26, she arrived at the Cecil Hotel. She was in a shared room on the hotel's 5th floor, which is something the hotel offered. Apparently, the roommate at the time she was with complained about odd behavior to the hotel's main staff. After 2 days, the hotel moved Elisa to her own room. According to Amy Price, who was at the time the hotel manager, she would leave notes for the roommate that said, "Go home, go away." I wonder if they were for the roommates. Interesting.
Why?
They say that she would leave these notes for the roommate that said, "Go home, go away."
Mm-hmm.
What if they weren't for the roommate? Maybe it was an outward cry. You get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
You get what I'm saying? You get the okay. And she would lock the door to the room and require special passwords to enter. That's also if she's hallucinating too. Maybe she didn't know what she was. Anyways. I just find it weird that you had to share a room. Like, that would be the most. Could you imagine going to a hotel and having to share a room with a stranger?
I'm a night fighter.
A night farter?
Yeah.
Interesting. But that alone, like, that just it's just a bad mix. It's just a bad mix because you don't know who you're dealing with. So funny enough, which I thought this was interesting, that later that same day that she got moved, she went to a live taping of Conan O'Brien. Which I thought was funny. It's not funny because it's not a funny situation.
It's a weird situation.
Yeah,
weird coincidence.
But she was escorted out by security because of her behavior. So what sparked the idea of her disappearance or she was missing was essentially her parents, which I have to give kudos to her parents because you often hear in missing persons cases that like the family members or whatever wait a while because they're not scared to tell the police, but nervous to say anything because they don't know if the person is truly missing or not. But these parents basically jumped on the boat and basically said, hey, my daughter's not texting me. She's been communicating with us this whole entire trip, and now she's not. So her entire trip, like I said, she was messaging back and forth. January 31st, 2013 was the day she was supposed to leave the hotel. Parents never heard from her, so they immediately called the LAPD. Her family rushed to LA and flew to help search for her. The staff that saw Elisa that day recalled her to be mostly alone, and there was a manager of a bookstore by the hotel called the Last Bookstore who recalled seeing Elisa and said she was always very lively and friendly. In fact, she even went there to get gifts that day to take home to her parents. The police that day combed the hotel as best as they could since there were limitations on what exactly they could legally do in search. They went to Elisa's room and did a search and even had search dogs combing the building, but somehow the dogs were unable to detect her scent, even on the rooftop. That's another what the heck. Because Sergeant Rudy Lopez at the time of the case basically said they searched all day from what they could legally search without probable cause to even begin to search as though a crime had been committed. About a week later was when LAPD decided more had to be done and they needed to go more to go off of. So they continued to post flyers everywhere they could to get her image out and in hope that somebody saw something, knew something, and bring the case to the public's attention through the media. So basically they were putting on social media, they were posting it, like going around LA, giving her image out, asking people, have you seen her? Whatever. Another week had gone by and it's now February 13th and there's absolutely no sign of Elisa. They were able to get a short video surveillance from an elevator taken January 31st of her. It was about a 2.5-minute video clip and it shows Elisa completely alone in the elevator, but you can totally see movements as though she's talking to someone and she steps out looking down the hall.
Now,
yeah,
everyone knows the famous footage. I guarantee you've seen it through any kind of TikTok, YouTube, Vines, way before. This stuff is, the story of her is not so old at this point in time, but if you're into the paranormal whatsoever, you've heard of her story and you've seen the footage. And the footage just shows her acting erratic. Makes no sense. She looks, I won't say drunk, but the way she acts when she's looking at the buttons ready to push. And then the other factor is that the elevator never leaves the floor that she's on. She steps in, she steps out, she's in the elevator for a good period of time before she walks and looks like she's hiding from somebody, and then looks like she's talking to somebody in the hall, but you never see anybody. And then eventually the footage just goes from her going up to the roof, and then it disappears after that. Yeah. Right? Now, what I found is interesting is that when Ghost Adventures were there, I don't know if they repaired the elevator or maybe they changed it from the time that she was there from the time that the Ghost Adventures went there. But the elevator kept closing within like 10, 15 seconds of opening. It kept closing, and Zach and the guys had to literally put their hand out to keep it from closing.
Yeah.
And the footage with Elisa, the elevator never closed. And never tried the door, never tried to close.
So someone had to be standing, something, or it had to get like a motion for it to, like something had to be standing in front of the door.
Yeah, and I noticed that when I first watched that episode of them at the Cecil Hotel, I was like, why does the elevator door keep closing? I remember the footage from Elisa Lam's thing is that it always stayed open. Like she would be in the elevator, standing inside the elevator and doing nonsense, and then the elevator door would never close. It would always stay open. And then she would like step out, step in, step out, step in, step out, step in, over and over again.
Yeah. Well, the thing that like bothers me about that video is it doesn't even look like her. It does. Like she is she was like 19, 20 at the time. She literally looks like she's 30, 40 years old. It doesn't even look like her. And that's that, the elevator video is
now
something else. Yeah.
Where did they find her?
Okay. The even more disturbing thing about this case is what you said, where they found her. So the LAPD at this point is still trying to figure out what the heck is going on. There's no trace of her. There's no probable cause to search anywhere else. There's no indications that a crime had even been committed. but they were still kind of like combing the area, trying to find out what was going on. And hotel guests began expressing concern for the water in their rooms and in the hotel in general.
Tasted weird, smelled weird.
Low water pressure.
Yeah.
They apparently said the water was black, which, and like you said, tasted awful. On February 19th, a hotel maintenance worker, which I found weird. The cops weren't getting pulled that way, or the dogs weren't getting pulled that way, but a hotel worker was able to check.
He went up to check the water tanks.
Oh yeah, that would make sense. Okay.
He went up to check the water tanks because that's where the source of where the water is.
Okay. Yeah, that would make sense. Okay. But Santiago Lopez had found her body in one of the 4,000-gallon tanks that were located on top of the hotel that essentially gave water to the guest rooms, the kitchens, and the coffee shop. She was floating face up in the water, and to even begin to get her body out of the tank was not easy. The tank had to be drained and basically cut open because the maintenance hatch was too small to accommodate the equipment that they needed to take her out. So her death was ruled accidental drowning with bipolar disorder as a factor. In the report from the coroners, it was said that her body was found naked, which is another creepy situation. Her clothes that looked similar to the elevator video was found next to her, as well as the room key and watch. No evidence of physical trauma, sexual assault, or suicide. Toxicology reports stated traces of prescription medicine that coincided with what she had on her, and non-prescription drugs like Sunutab and ibuprofen. A small quantity of alcohol was present, but no recreational drugs. And based on what she was required to take with her medications, doctors and experts had stated that she may have stopped or reduced taking her medicines prescribed.
Now, with all that being said, her erratic or disbehavior and stuff like that and how she ended up in a tank make no sense.
Yeah.
And people theorize that, she was on the right side of mind. Why, in her history of mental illness, stuff like that she ever, take a suicide? And why the water tank?
Yeah.
She could have jumped off the building like everyone else did. Why just get naked, jump into the water tank that someone could barely fit in to die?
Yeah.
To allow yourself to drown? That doesn't make any sense. It also doesn't make a lot of sense that she was talking to somebody during that time. Bipolar people, they split between personalities of happy and sad, not schizophrenia.
Yeah.
I've known bipolar people. They can go from mood and stuff like that. They don't start talking to random people that aren't there.
Yeah.
Which leads me to the strong theory that most people believe that she was mildly possessed.
Oh.
And if you know the cases, the demonic cases that happened there, that's not too far-fetched.
Yeah.
Especially with Richard Rodriguez and what he did. Richard Rodriguez?
No, you got me. Richard Ramirez.
On what he did while he was there.
Yeah.
Supposedly, they after his time there, one of the staff members found a pentagram painted, or inverted pentagram, painted on one of the water towers. Not the one that they found her in, but one of them altogether.
Well, one of the things that in the show for Netflix, The Vanishing at the Cecil Hotel, I think is what it's
Their
called.
documentary.
Yeah. They talk about the serial killers, and they actually interviewed a former long-term resident person. And he said basically in the 80s, it was so bad, there'd be no way he would go above the 6th floor. Because he said the 7th floor and above is where they killed people. He said, they would just drag you in a room and kill you. Throw you out the building. And it said that the people that were listed, that are actually listed, reported, aren't all of the people that got pushed out of the building and stuff like that. And I believe that. And I know one historian and had mentioned that basically Richard Ramirez would go behind the alleyway, take off his bloody clothes from his murdered victims, like that he would, wear when he would murder, and then walk up the steps in his blood-stained underwear and go to his room like nothing ever happened. Like,
Yeah. He had paintings.
paintings?
Richard Ramirez painted.
Oh, really?
Granted, they're disturbing to look at,
Yeah.
but not disturbing as most sane people. There's a German artist who painted stuff that's way out there.
Yeah.
But no, his stuff is that. I remember Zach got his hands on one and brought it back to the hotel to his room. Right?
Why? Oh, God.
Because you know what they do.
I know.
They play with fire.
I know.
But no, it was funny enough is that I guess that attracted Richard Ramirez to the room. Now, one of the other things that lead me to believe with possible demonic possession with Elisa Lam case is that there was a psychic that they brought in.
Mm-hmm.
Who she's known. She's like I think it was her. I want to say it was her. She was saying that there's a demon there. She at least says it's a demon. That was like she says it's very like creepy with a big grin that was kind of like he. And he was hiding around the corners, and he was telling her that it keeps them all here. It keeps them all here. Like it's like well, most places and cases we've done with like there is something evil keeping a lot of human spirits there, entrapped in prison to feed off their energy.
Yeah.
But she says she kept getting like a swirling motion, like it's like dizzying. That this thing is confusing everyone, keeping them there.
That would make sense. That would actually make a lot of sense. Because, and two, the way that I still just get weirded out by the shape of the building.
Now, I don't
freaks
think
me out.
Now, I don't think Richard Ramirez brought that thing there. I think it's always been there, or somehow was there before.
Yeah, because I feel like
I think he agitated it, or at least
gave it something.
Yeah,
like just like hey.
Because Richard Ramirez is known for being a renowned Satan worshiper. He had a pentagram carved into his forehead.
Yeah.
And always
not all pentagrams are bad, but like
his inverted one.
The inverted one. Just
and
like any
especially the meaning behind what he did it for. Like all his killings it was for Satan and blah 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 this and his whole prerogative, that's the word.
Well, I thought this was kind of crappy. I don't know if I don't think this guy had any evidence, but they tried tying this one guy to the Elisa Lam murders, and he was like a full-blown metalhead. He kind of looks like you, which is kind of funny. He literally has a haircut you used to have, which is kind of funny.
My Dave Navarro hair.
Yeah. But they were accusing him. I think he got like he was innocent or whatever, but they kept accusing. I think he's from Mexico, and like he went back home to Mexico, and he wasn't even in the area when she disappeared. But yeah. And just a thing too with like people that sacrifice and people that are into the dark satanic and dark witch stuff which does incorporate sacrificing people and doing the worst of the worst on the bad end of the spectrum don't look like, people are quick to point fingers to the metalhead and say, hey, I mean, in Richard Ramirez, he was kind of like a metalhead guy, so kind
You
of.
wouldn't think that by looking at him.
Yeah, but not all metalheads are into that. And I think that is a huge misconception. Because should I just give my theory?
I would say see what you did.
Okay.
You keep wanting to, but
yeah, because
but what was the other serial killer?
So there was a serial killer. Apparently, he was Austrian, and let me see his name.
Hope it didn't sound like Arnold Schwarzenegger.
No, his name was I don't even know. Jack Unterweger. Yeah. He was an Austrian serial killer and committed crimes in Austria, West Germany, Czechoslovakia, and the United States. And he also stayed at the Cecil. And yeah, apparently the Black Dahlia killer also had their last drink apparently at the Cecil Hotel.
Mm.
Which I thought I mean, look at all the negative. Like, it's so, there has to be something demonic there. Like, there is no way, whether someone's actually like feeding it, which I hate that creeps me out, feeding a demon thing. But
If you think about how death has happened all the entire time, that place was almost a feeding ground for depression. And places we've been to before with spirits that have died of depression or illness or just suicide, essentially, they're always giving off that negative emotion. And what we've learned in our small cases with demonic possession and oppression is that negative cases, negative emotion attract and is what powers them.
yeah,
So something like that, a building like that is prime feeding ground for a demonic spirit, or more than just one. That is like a buffet, essentially,
yeah,
for a negative energy for them to feed off continuously forever. So that's why my theory, but that's why it's a good assumption to believe why that place is so heavy with death, and why anyone that goes there with suicidal thoughts tends to go through with it.
yeah.
Every single time.
But there's something I swear with the elevators. There's something with the elevators. I don't know.
Well,
And see, I don't know why, but I feel like elevators are an easy thing for spirits to manipulate, because I know I've been in an elevator and had it manipulate from an entity before. So, if there is something, I don't know, maybe the idea of an elevator, I don't know.
well, there goes that whole theory about the honeycombs with the bees,
Yeah.
about being spiritual, or not spiritual, but ghost. I don't say ghost or haunting places where bees are. I don't say that's where that necessarily how it goes, but with the honeycomb effect, I forgot some Russian scientist. Our good friend,
My God, why can't I think of his name?
I can't think of it right now either.
Chaz, there you go.
Chaz of the Dead. He was the one that told me about him to begin with, about the whole theorization of boxes and any places that have many sections, like cute section rooms, are very heavily haunted for those reasons. And you look at every place that's sectioned, roomed, hotels, prisons, sane asylums, all places like that have many rooms that are almost sectioned out, creating that honeycomb effect, like bees would do, and that it's some correlation with spiritualness and that happening, almost like not in prison, but a good place for them to be.
Yeah. Plus, I feel like in those situations, like the honeycomb syndrome, I don't know why I said syndrome, but the honeycomb effect is that a spirit can, or not even a spirit, a dark entity could, look how many people they have to feed off of. Look how much energy they can take from somebody.
Well, if place with pieces of people are living, yeah, I can see like that. Hotels, especially that are still active and being used, are now apartments. Hotel, the Cecil apartments, no longer a hotel anymore.
Yeah.
That tends to be fresh feeding, especially for low income people who are dealing with depression or dealing with the fact that they can't afford this and can't afford that, and they're basically working themselves to death, and essentially with like dealing with not having enough money and that whole mindset and that level of depression. Oh my God, you just basically allow whatever's there fresh meat to feed off of the negative energy. It's probably strengthening that thing up. So I wouldn't be surprised if you hear in the next year or so the Cecil apartments having more deaths.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, because there was a clip that same guy, I gotta figure out his name and I'll link it, and he's huge, and I can't think, like, it's filming the Cecil Hotel and doing this stuff with the Cecil Hotel is kind of like outside of what he normally does. So, you wouldn't know him from like spooky stuff, but, I remember the same kind of like week that he showed the ambulance, there were these two people and they were sitting out on the balcony and they were dangling their legs, and he goes, "Hey, is everything okay?" I think maybe the ambulance was there. It was the same video. And he goes, "Hey, is everything okay over there?" You know, he yells it across because he's in the apartments across. And he's almost like lateral to them. And they go like, shut the fuck up. Don't fucking look at us. Da, da, da. And it's like, okay, he just asked if everything was okay.
Yeah.
You know, so it shows you like the energy is just, and, you know, you think these small places that don't have a lot of like, that don't even have like death and stuff like that, but just have like negative people in them, you know, is intense. Could you imagine like that place?
Well, that's I don't say theorize yet because we still have encounter stories to go through, right?
No, that's the next episode.
I know.
Yeah.
We're almost at an hour.
Oh, dang, really?
Yeah. So I said we have encounter stories next to do, which we'll probably do in part 2.
Yeah.
And so I said we might save our theories for the end of part 2.
Yeah.
Which
Can I give a glimpse though? I just
you,
want to give a
you
glimpse.
can give yours.
Okay, I'll give mine.
'Cause I have my own.
I think that there's somebody in. I don't think that this dark entity was always there, right? I think maybe something happened that kind of like started bringing negative things there, but somebody that worked in the hotel a long ass time opened the door for something dark to come in. And I think that there is, I feel like there's maybe something satanic going on. That is more, there's more to the actual people. Not the staff. They might know stuff. But like the higher ups.
The owners.
The owners.
But the question is, for why though? Why?
A lot of times in that kind of situations, they get something in return, and you think about it. Have they ever been sued for the deaths?
I'm pretty sure they at least someone's tried to.
The Lam family tried to sue them for neglect. They didn't win anything.
Yeah, because they claimed that I guarantee the Cecil Hotel said, "Hey, she was insane. She clearly showed mental disturbance with her behaviors, blah." And you can't claim demonic possession in a court anymore.
Yeah,
I mean, granted, the Warrens tried to, but it kind of it didn't work because you can't prove ideas of paranormal involving cases like that.
Yeah.
So, no point in trying to bring that up, right? Even though it's, from what I saw, a clear representation. But, so they said, oh, she was insane, she did this, and she killed herself. That's typical mental illness claimed to suicide. Oh, why is it you're blaming us? It could happen at any hotel. Blah, blah, blah. I hear all the lawyer talk to how to get their way out of it. So, I mean, and every suicide death has been a suicide.
Yeah.
Or murder by someone else. No one, you said, publicly was murdered there.
Yeah.
Right? Mm-hmm. Everyone that's worldly reported has been by suicide, or they killed someone and they were acquitted for insanity.
Mm-hmm.
So that's how they're able to get away with it. And if anything does ever happen there, like someone does kill somebody that they could get blamed on, you guarantee to have someone to cover it up. The thing is, the Cecil Hotel is so low income. Who's got the money to pay someone off to do something? To do such things.
Mm-hmm. But here's another thing. As lavish as a Cecil Hotel is, right?
Mm.
Why hasn't it shut down? Why isn't it shut down?
It did for a little bit.
No. Like, go bankrupt and shut down. Because you think it's such a lavish hotel. So many freaking rooms. So many rooms. So many elaborate things. Granted, they don't have like a pool or any kind of like amenities like that. But, and they charge so little. I think Richard Ramirez, I think it was like $14 a day he was paying.
That's why. That's why they stay open. You got to remember, a lot of places like that, they're not paying for bathrooms and plumbing from inside the room. They're paying for one source where it comes from. So not everyone's running their water at the same time and stuff like that. So you're not paying for a lot of individual faucets and stuff like that. So you save money in the water bill. And granted, the TVs in the room are probably freaking old, if there is any in there.
Mm-hmm.
Right? If you allow them to stay more than one day, you hire your hired staff to change the linens, not every day, but maybe every other day. Right? Yeah. Maybe even once a week. Who the hell knows how they do things there. And the fact that you have so many low-income people, you're making your money by charging less and having more people.
Yeah.
And they shut down to rebuild to create, since they had people stay there for so long anyway, let's might as well make it apartments.
Yeah.
So that's what they did. And now they can charge people who don't make a lot of money, not a lot, to stay in apartments like this and continue to feed what's already there.
That's what I'm saying. There has to be someone along the line that opened the door to everything. Like,
and the owner or owners of the Cecil Hotel, they don't want to believe that there is something paranormal evilly there, even though they have over, I don't know how many cases of people claiming a paranormal activity.
mm-hmm.
So much so the Ghost Adventures was invited there. Now, I don't know how Ghost Adventures got invited there,
Mm-hmm.
right? I don't know how much Zach paid to go there. Granted, he's probably got a lot of money to pay them up front and stuff like that to, investigate.
Mm-hmm.
But the Cecil Hotel doesn't want to be known as being a haunted location. It doesn't. That's why it doesn't allow a lot of people to investigate it to begin with.
But see, that to me, that's when, like, if it's just a little bit of activity and you say, like, my stuff isn't haunted, there's always something, like, I don't know. Like, I feel like people that try and desperately try and, like, say that their place is not haunted. It's not haunted, and there's actual, like, people saying their experiences. I don't know. Maybe they think that the Cecil Hotel, I don't know. But I feel like when they try, like, die-hardingly, I don't even know if that's a word, die-hardingly.
You're making it worse now.
Not to, not to investigate, not to look into it. That's what makes me think that somebody has something there or opens the gates or actively keeps something there because they don't want investigators. Ironic. So, ambulance.
No.
Yeah.
No, the cop car is moving too fast.
Yeah.
Anyway. But I feel like even if we were to get popularly known for what we do,
Mm-hmm.
about clearing places out, like taking everything away, and we offer our services to them, say we can take the whole hotel for you, taking everything out, so you don't have to worry about anything like this ever again.
Yeah.
I feel like they would tell us no.
Yeah.
Even though it said, well, what do you got to lose? Either we do what we do and we get rid of everything and there's nothing ever there, or you prove us wrong by saying there's nothing in there and we find out there's nothing there and they have nowhere to worry about.
Yeah.
They don't want to lose what's there.
That's exactly that. I'm sorry is when somebody has a deal with something or is, I don't know. I'm sorry. Something in the upper chain, I don't know, is not right.
And I have I theorize, and we've talked about this with our paranormal team, how we would go about clearing it, which I'll probably say for part 2.
Yeah.
A lot of people are like, tell us now.
Yeah,
No,
we have a lot on part 2 about, we asked I did ask other investigators how they would do, where they would focus first and where they would go. Because we did some polls on our Instagram stories and
also encounter stories that you found.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. Which is all part 2 because we now are pushing close to an hour and we barely got into the encounter stories and other things that we could discuss. So that's why we said we had to split in 2 because it's going to be like a very long episode. So look forward to part 2 coming next week.
Yes.
No haunted updates.
No, not.
No, I don't say nothing we dealt with that we normally don't.
Yeah.
Yeah,
we had like a little influx of activity, like literally the last couple of days. I don't know what's going on. So we've got to figure that out.
Which I always thought, like, if we had a Patreon, I think I would do that, like haunted weekly update, something on Patreon. If we ever started one, that's another thing too. I always thought if we had a Patreon, people even want like what stuff would we offer? I don't know. We always but yeah. As always, guys, you can catch our social media at Hidden in the Shadows Podcast on Instagram, Hidden the Shaw 6 on Twitter, Hidden in the TikTok, Hidden in the Podcast 2 on TikTok, or links to all our social media and all ways you can listen to us at hiddenshadowspodcast.com. Where's our links to our merch store where you can buy some stuff. Yeah, so look forward to part 2 next week of the Cecil Hotel.
Yep.
And we'll catch your weirdos in the next one.
Yes.
And this month.